Good morning, good morning. Welcome to Lincoln School. I'm so excited we had such a nice turnout, so welcome. I'm just going to introduce your presenters, and I wanted to share with you an important thing, the bathrooms. In case you need a bathroom, head back up the stairs and come right to the main office. There's a bathroom right around the corner, so we'll get you settled there. All right? There's seats up front. There's plenty of seats over here. Okay, so you know we've been talking about the anxious generation as a district, and today we have Jack Hurley, Emily DeQuinzio, who is our occupational therapist, and Megan Coy, who is the supervisor of early childhood, going to talk to you about the power and the importance of play. And there's coffee. Yes. Help yourself. If I can go get some.
Coffee and treats if anyone needs it. Hi, my name is Megan Coy. I'm the supervisor of elementary education. I'm sure many of you recognize me from the kindergarten center. I recognize a lot of you. I'm also the parent academy coordinator. So we have been looking to identify some ways that we can support our community. And this workshop today is in response to the anxious generation that Mr. Hurley has referenced in his back to school messages that we see on social media, that we've seen on the news, and we've broken them down to really focus on how this impacts our students from the lower elementary and then from the upper elementary through high school. So today we're focusing on the importance of play. There will be some additional workshops for this age group after the new year. There will also be some other workshops that will be available to cover different topics as we need. But we are looking forward to having you with us at these other workshops, so please be sure to follow and check the calendars as we move forward. I would also just let you know that all this information, and this will be recorded, will be available for you to browse at your leisure on our website, and it should be available in the next week or so. So just some fun in between your holiday shopping, you can check it. Mr. Hurley?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming here. First of all, yeah, we're excited about this program. I think this is our third Parent Academy presentation. We have another one coming up this week, another one coming up next after Thanksgiving, more in January. And this is a topic that I think has a lot of interest, right? So part of the reason why we're recording it is so that if you could go back and revisit, but tell your friends that if they didn't see it, they can go and look at it, okay? Let's see. Okay, so just a quote to get us going that, when we're involved in play, right? Recreation is important. And this discussion is about play. I want to talk a little bit about what we mean by that, but also give you a little bit of background. First of all, this is about the book, right? If you were at the workshop last week, and I see a couple of faces who were on the grades 4 to 12 that we talked about social media and cell phone. And we're going to be doing one down the road for the K-3 folks as well about social media and cell phone. And I'm hoping, and I'm not trying to create a controversy. I'm hoping that smartphones are not a big topic right now in K-3. Okay, if that is a topic with your K-3 student, when you go home, go on the website, look at the presentation we did last week about cell phone. All right, because it is a growing concern. And a lot of the press about this book has been about that. In fact, in today's Bergen Record, there's an article about Ramsey schools getting these devices to lock up phones. And so it's a lot of discussion about that. And it really is a big driving force from the book. But what's got lost a little bit was the discussion about the erosion of what is considered a lot of different terms for it, but free play. And we thought, at this grade level, or this age level, right, it'd be better to start with that. Okay? The book, I recommend getting it. I recommend reading it. I'm not selling the book, right? This is not, I wish I was getting a percentage. Although at the last workshop, I said I have a carton in my car. Afterwards, I could get you a good deal on it. But it is not about the book, right? The discussion is about the topics that the book has brought up. And the author, John Haidt, has written a lot of other books, Coddling the American Mind, other books that talk about similar topics. And there's a lot of stuff out there. Again, if you go to last week's presentation, you'll see a whole bibliography of other works about this topic. So this is a generation, a conversational starter. We're also not trying to tell you how to raise your children. That's your decision, right? What we're trying to share with you is what we have seen both from working with kids, our training, the book we read, the webinar we went to with the author, our own experiences, what we're seeing, and how maybe we could partner together to make sure that we have the same goal that we all have, right? Making sure that our students, your kids, are growing up right? Dealing, developing the kind of strength they need, right, to get through life. So, we'll come back to that in a minute. I've been in education for 47 years. Prior to those 47 years, I was a kid, right? I've been a parent for my oldest is 35 years. I've been a grandparent now, three grandkids for 8 years. So my whole life, right, has been around, both professionally and personally, around kids. And I'll tell you that they don't change that much. The styles change and fads change and language changes, but yeah, kind of the same. I can also tell you that the development of the brain and the development of the body hasn't really changed all that much. But what has changed drastically in the last 10 or 15 years, and we'll talk more about this in the other presentation about the impact of social media, depression, anxiety, suicide ideation, suicides, self-esteem in young people. And if you get a chance to look in the book, you'll see charts that show you, these problems were always there. But then around 2010, they go up 60, 70, 80, 90%, sometimes over 100, sometimes they more than double. And this is not make-believe stuff. This is real data. So you go back and you say, why? I could tell you, I was talking to the high school principal who said to me, there's no more discipline in the high school. And I thought he was telling me that he and the assistant principal aren't doing their job. Right? Which wouldn't have surprised me. No, I'm only kidding. Can we edit that out of the tape? What he was telling me was that the job that I had for years, the assistant principal, where, you got into a fight. Oh, you talked back to a teacher. Oh, you were smoking in the bathroom. It's become more of a guidance counseling position. Dealing with kids with anxiety, dealing with kids who don't want to go to class because they're school phobic. Okay? So you start to say, why, right? Why has this changed? And we hear a lot of stuff, kids deal with global issues. Well, we all live through global issues. We live through wars. Oh, the societal issues. I was a kid, there were riots in the streets, like a half a mile from my house. Oh, family problems. There's always been divorce. There's always been illness. There's always been death in the family, right? How come certain generations coped with it and this generation struggles to cope with it? So I always thought it was a little too simplistic to say, there's one or two reasons. But then I read this book. And 2010 is when we all started walking around with this. 2010 was when the internet and social media started to dominate kids' lives, right? So that's another workshop. But going back maybe to the 80s, the concept of free play started to change. And free play, which doesn't mean playing with you, it doesn't mean playing in their room. It could mean playing in their room. It means playing independently without constant parental involvement or adult involvement. And that has declined drastically. And the book points out how we used to live in the real world, but now have a play-based childhood, Now we kind of live in a virtual world and have a phone-based childhood. And in the real world is embodied, right? Is real. You're here. Okay? Is synchronous. Is happening in real time. Okay? It's you're communicating with people, real people. Right? One-on-one, small groups. A high bar for entry and exit. Someone can't just click a button to friend you, right? They actually have to become your friend. Someone can't just unclick a button to unfriend you. They have to have that hard conversation with you about why we're not hanging out together anymore. The virtual world's the opposite of all that. It's disembodied. You don't even know who you're talking to, right? You know? And now with AI, I mean, you don't even know if the person's real. Okay? I went to a workshop on AI 2 weeks ago, and the superintendent who hosted introduced his new assistant. It was a totally artificially created person who talked and even recognized me in the audience. Said, "Oh, I want to introduce." You know, it was like a real person, but they're not real, right? Asynchronous could be happening at any time, not necessarily real time. One to many, and low bar for entry and exit. So it's a different reality, right, that kids have. So let's go back to play. You know, Adam Grant, who is a professor at Wharton University, as an organizational psychologist, a well-known author, talks about the greatest way we grow and learn and develop is through failure, is through trial and error. Kids have a hard time with that now. And it could be because they don't have enough time to actually try things to fail. Right? He talks about how play, and he might use a different word than play, how play allows people to be expansive. If you're at work and you could go and come up with a project without being scrutinized by your boss, play around with ideas, collaborate with others, right? Then you could kick out the things that don't work. You could build up the things that do work, as opposed to always being in an organized, structured environment. Always having to please somebody. We have this profile of the graduate, right? I mean, somewhere it's right up there, hanging up over there. So we have it in every building. And we talk about the things that we're looking for as foundational pieces of education. We're talking about citizenship as one, right? We're talking about communication, creativity, critical thinking, collaboration. That could come out of play. That could be a life lesson. So again, when I was a kid, now granted, when I was a kid, it's a long time ago. But remember what I said in the beginning? Have kids really changed very much? I don't think so. Have psychological development, brain development, physical development changed very much? I don't really think so. I think a lot of data would show, and studies would show I'm right. I went out in the morning. I mean, it's a cliche, but it's true. I came back home to play. If we were going to play, I was basketball, soccer, or whatever it was. We chose up the sides. We settled the disputes. We kept score. We called the ball out of bounds or in bounds. How many kids do that today? Is that citizenship? Is that collaboration? Is that communication? Is that critical thinking? Is that creative thinking? Right? So what happened? And this we can't, where am I pointing to? There we go. I just missed some. Let's go back. Yeah. Okay, well, I'm going to skip to the slide. I hope it's there somewhere. And then we'll go back. Here it is, okay? This started a long time ago. But not with this, but this cell phone and social media, I think, has really increased it. Television began the migration indoors. Okay? So all of a sudden, we had TVs in every house in the 50s and the 60s and 70s, and kids could watch TV. But the difference was we had like an hour or 2 hours of children's programming a day. Now, if you want to watch a cartoon at 2 in the morning, there's like 5 different channels you could find, let alone what you could stream, right? So, but that began it. And then that kind of begat, if you want to get, biblical language, that begat video games, cable television, right? Social media. So it's very easy for a child to sit alone and be entertained. And to play, but play disembodied, right? Through these devices. So that kind of began to change. Adult-directed sports and activities displaced kid-directed sports and activities. So kids still play basketball or soccer or whatever, but they play it with the coach. Or they play it with mom and dad. Now, I was a pretty successful coach. And I used to tell my teams, you got to go out and just play on your own sometime. Because that's when you're going to try something. You're going to try that kind of wacky shot that you're not going to try in practice because I may say, what the heck are you doing, and bench you. Okay? But then when you try that wacky shot in the schoolyard and you develop it, then I say, wow, Michael Jordan has arrived. Right? Everything became parent guided. And think about that. Whether your kids drive you nuts or whether you just love them to death, they want to please you. When an adult is watching, they are being monitored, which adds to stress and anxiety. Okay? Instead of just being creative. And coming home and tell you, hey, in this make-believe game or real game I was playing in the schoolyard, guess what, Dad? Guess what, Mom? I hit the winning shot when they didn't even hit the rim, right? As opposed to you saying, how come you didn't make the shot? Free play got replaced with adult play. Public spaces increasingly became adult space. Now, that may be a good reason, but all of a sudden, imagine when I was 12, we went to the Bayonne pool. I grew up in Jersey. The kids, they wouldn't let me in now without an adult. Right? You can't go to the mall, and I get why. There's crime. You can't go to the mall on a Friday night or a Saturday night if you're not with an adult. Okay? There are adults, parents, who get arrested because they let their kid walk to the store. Public places over time have become adult spaces, which means kids are always being monitored. They're never allowed to just develop. Opportunities for part-time jobs evaporate. Well, that's good, right? We don't want child labor. Right? I'm not suggesting we go back to 1910, the year I graduated high school, by the way. But you used to be able to have a paper route. A paper route? Most people even know what that means. Okay? I used to deliver groceries with a bike. Okay? You used to cut somebody's grass, shovel their snow. Right? How many of you are going to let your 12-year-old walk around Rutherford with a shovel, ringing doorbells, asking somebody they need their sidewalk shoveled? Maybe some of you will, but most of you won't. You'll be afraid you get arrested for letting your kid walk around. Right? Perceived stranger danger led to a lot of this. Okay? And I say perceived because it really is perceived. Two big cases back in the 80s of kidnapping. One was in New York, one was in the Midwest. Started the TV shows that were on, started the milk cartons, have you seen this kid, and things like that, okay? And they started to report data. This became a big fear, a big panic, okay? So pardon me, I just want to make sure I'm not saying things wrong. And this is a study that came from another professor of psychology out of Boston College, it's Dr. Gray. So back even as late as 2017, the United States Department of Justice reported that 460,000 children go missing every year. That's a lot, right? That's pretty scary. However, in the report, it tells you that gone missing means that someone did not see their kid for 1 hour. Some of you, that would be a blessing, right? Yeah. Okay? So you wouldn't call it missing. You'd say, okay, so for 1 hour. So there's some examples. An 8-year-old got off the wrong bus stop. Okay, a divorced mom violated a court order, took their kid out of state. A 17-year-old, because under the age of 18, who was pregnant and afraid to talk to her parents, ran away. Okay? Of this 460,000 children that were missing, there were about 105 that year that were, you'd call, kidnapping. Okay? Now, even one is too much, right? But there were 72 million children, kids, between the ages of 0 and 17 in the United States. So that means the odds of being kidnapped were like 1 in 720,000. Okay? And the data goes on to say that you have a bigger odds of having a conjoined twin. You have a greater odd of a lot of things, 1 in 720,000. So do we have to be cautious? Sure, we have to be cautious. But this idea that people are out there lurking and most kidnappings are not done by strangers. They're done by family members or friends of families. So because of all these factors, the old parenting advice that we got 36 years ago when I became a parent, you want to develop independence, got replaced by you got to monitor your kids all the time. And with that, okay, this free play went out the window. Now, why is that important? And you're going to hear more from our two other speakers, and you're going to hear from me. But to go back to the book that I'm really not selling, but get 10%. No, I'm kidding. He writes, the human brain contains two subsystems that put into two common modes. Discover mode for approaching opportunities, and defend mode for defending against perceived threats. Young people born, and he has the statistics to back it up, after 1995 are more stuck in defend mode compared to those born earlier. They are on permanent alert for threats rather than being hungry for new experiences. They are anxious. Children by nature are anti-fragile. Anti-fragile means, a stressor helps you get strong. It's like how we develop an immune system, which we don't have a great job of doing that anymore either. Okay? All right? Just as the immune system has to be exposed to germs, trees have to be exposed to wind, children should be exposed to setbacks, failures, shocks, stumbles to develop strength and self-reliance. Overprotection interferes with this development and renders many young people likely to be fragile and fearful as adults. Kids need a great deal of free play to develop these traits. The worship of safety above all else is dangerous because it makes it harder for children to learn and care for themselves, to deal with risk, conflict, and frustration. So, just like I said about social media, the ship has sailed, right? We're never going to live without it completely. And we're never going to just go home now and say to your kid, hey, guess what? How about tonight you and your friends walk up a parquet, you go out for dinner, I'll give you a few bucks, be home by 9, all right? I mean, that's not going to happen, nor maybe should it, right? But we got to start thinking about our practices. We have to start thinking about what we're doing and the long-term effect of it and find a way to maybe move a little bit more towards a center of how we should be dealing with it. And these conversations help you to start thinking about that. Okay? So, that's my introduction. As usual, it takes longer than it's supposed to. And I'm going to let Ms. Coy take over and talk a little more about some of the reasons why things are happening and also some of the things we can start doing together to change it. Okay?
Thank you.
And
I think it's also important just to note after Mr. Hurley spoke how we talk about the social media and the lure of having our children on the different things, but we feel that same pressure of being perfect, right? And we see the outside influences as well. So it's not just our children that are being exposed to the different types of immediate satisfaction, but we also, as parents, as educators, as schools, we are feeling that same pressure. Everything is perfect out there, and that's something that we need to think about from a child's perspective and when we're fully developed. Okay. Sorry, I went the wrong way. Okay. All right, so in The Anxious Generation, and again, we're not promoting the book, we're promoting some of the information that came out of it. So one of the first topics that, or their end goals is no smartphones before high school. Well, if I were to present this to the high school parents, I have a dead audience at that point because no one is able to do that at this point. But it makes you start to think, why? What is the cell phone or what is the smartphone doing that may negatively impede our child? So at this level, you're able to rethink how you move forward with technology. You're able to have those questions. You're able to have those discussions with your friends to say, okay, are you doing a phone? Well, if you're doing it, do we have to do those? Like having those productive conversations to enable yourself to make powerful decisions. When you look at this graph, and I didn't put in a lot of statistics. The book has them. Our presentation last week for the older students and their parents has a lot of data in it. I just wanted to reference. The visual is just significant. And this visual is referencing daily time with friends in person. You don't need to go next door and ask your friend to play if you have a friend on your phone. You don't need to stay on the playground after school if you have a friend in your phone. You're not developing and practicing those skills that you need. So this is quite significant. And I found it, it's the reality of where we are. And that's why this information being presented to parents of this age group, we're finding the significance of. Their second end goal that the book points out to is that there's no social media before 16. Possible negative impacts of social media. Well, I was just saying it as a parent. We have all those negative influences. We have the influencers. We need our house to look like this. We need our children to look like this. I need to know what is the in color for 2025 because 2024 is almost over. So what color am I painting? What is the new boot for? All these things we as grown-ups are taking these outside influences to judge, to make choices for ourselves, and we have a mature brain. When you are a child being exposed to all these to the whole world, the phone gives you access to the entire world. Social media, so you can Google anything, you can have feedback, and the algorithm is giving you back what you put out there. So if you're putting out something negative or something that isn't healthy, it's coming back at you in that same direction. So the average time spent on social media, as we all, I'm sure, are aware, we can just see the extent and the difference between some of us and some. This is 3 hours a day on social media. Imagine if they were doing 30 more minutes of schoolwork, or 30 more minutes of exercise, or 30 more minutes of helping prepare a meal for themselves. That's a lot of time engaged in something that is not fully engaging within themselves. So the social media and the negative impacts, there are going to be, of course, things that are great. You could celebrate accolades through it, but we're just focusing on why it's important to monitor the social media parts. The pressure to live a perfect life. They see children having the perfect room, the perfect face. They have the lip balm, they have the lip masks, they have the ivy on the wall with the fairy lights behind it. They have all these that's what they need. They have to get it. They need the Stanley Cup. They need this. It's all because the influences are coming out or coming in. Making sure that the striving for perfection, it's not real. Try telling that to your children if they keep seeing it over and over again. No, this one's doing it. This is real. This is what they're doing. Increased self-doubt after receiving fewer likes or comments. So then they're on Instagram or they're on Snap or whichever platform will be the next platform, and they didn't get a like from that person that they like, or they didn't get a friend request, or they're defriended, as Mr. Hurley was referencing before, that they don't have to have that difficult conversation to not be friends with someone anymore, or they don't have that experience of getting to know someone to be friends with someone. So they're constantly seeing, was that a good enough post? Was that a good enough? Are they my friend? It's that need, validation, that's from something that isn't is artificial. And it becomes addicting. They want that positive feedback. It feels good when someone says something nice to you. We all know that. We all like a compliment. We all like that. But when it's just a like, it's as simple as someone giving a like. You're looking for that feedback from that friend, from that person. And when you're not getting it, you're checking and waiting. Please, I hope they liked my post. So that addiction and that need, that preoccupation with having to be able to have their phone to check that social media device. And the anxiety levels that come with those emotions lead to significant sleep disturbances and depression. Sleep we could do 5 different Parent Academy presentations on sleep, but sleep is important. You know, as grown-ups, if you sleep with your phone in your room and you can't go to sleep, most likely you're picking up your phone and you're scrolling, and then you look at the clock and you're like, oh my gosh, it's late. Or your phone is next to you and the light goes on because someone texted you, or you have an alert or something and you're checking. So you're not even able to decompress fully as an adult. A child, again, seeking that affirmation, seeking that validation. What did they do? What are they there? Or I have a question. Let me see. Oh, back to the cartoons are available all day. I can't sleep. I'm just going to watch whatever it may be. It's that constant feedback that's available. Phone-free schools was another one of their end goals. There are always going to be workarounds, but Rutherford, prior to this book, prior to it, has had policies and procedures in place. Your child's not allowed to have one at this age, right? We're a K-3 workshop right now, but as they get older, the restrictions maintain and they gradually lessen, but with the expectations that they are not using them during class. There's caddies, there's all different ways that teachers collect them or utilize them, or they're in the locker at the middle school. We have these things in place. And it's important to help working together to know that we're trying to do our best, you're educated to do your best, and again, we're not telling you what to do, we're just giving you that information. And leading up to the importance of today, and Emily and I have worked together for probably 10 years, or if not more. And it's something we've constantly had conversations about. So she's an occupational therapist, and we have talked and talked and talked about the need for play. It is so important. They need to just develop their muscles. They need to be able to sit in a chair. They need to be able to stand. They need to be able to walk up and down stairs. They need to be able to be physically functioning humans. And play allows that. Play is the practice to real life. Because if you fall down or if you're with a friend, you're going to figure it out. And that's the importance of it. Free play, unsupervised play, and we're not just saying go play in the street. It's not overseeing every argument, every time something doesn't go right. It's not saying you guys are going to play this. Okay, you have 5 minutes, right? You're almost done, 5 minutes, it's her turn. Oh, no. You have to go 2 more spots. Let them figure it out. Let them feel uncomfortable. They're more resilient and they have more skills than often we provide to our children. And play is where they need to be able to develop their problem solving, their communication, being creative, feeling a sense of accomplishment. If your parents are giving you, or your coaches are, oh, you did great. Meanwhile, you know you did nothing that day and you sat on the corner, but you still got it. What feeling is that truly giving? When a feeling of accomplishment is truly something that is an amazing feeling. And independence and imagination. Go and play. I'm an alien, you're a alien, we live on Mars and we're going to crawl on let them be able to explore things that they like, things that they aren't able to do. So Emily is going to talk more about how we are going to engage our children, what is appropriate to our children, why the importance is there, because something happened and we need to figure out how we can go through this. So Mr. Hurley referenced this earlier, and we'll go from here. Thank you. Just click to the right.
Okay.
Or left.
So this just shows the 6 stages of play. So of course, unoccupied play are infants. They're new to the world, but everything to that child is play. I had my newborn at Home Depot last night. It was play. She was all about the Christmas lights. So like little things like that, anything is play to them. Goes all the way up to cooperative play, which is 4+ years. So that's all of our kids here at Lincoln are in cooperative play mode or should be in cooperative play mode. So they're able to sit with others, engage with others, play cars, play a game. That's when our ability to play games starts to develop. All those things, follow rules, like Mrs. Coy was saying, problem solve, all those things start to develop when we hit our cooperative play age. So, going off of what Mr. Hurley had said, the benefits of free unstructured child-led play. So, using the creativity, just to help their imagination, their dexterity, and dexterity, is everything, not just our fine motor skills, our gross motor skills, just their ability to pivot and deal with these changes. We're seeing so many issues today in school with transitions. Something as simple as, oh, your center's over, move to the next center. It's a meltdown. So just being able to pivot and deal with those things emotionally. And then our physical and cognitive strength. So our kids that have this ability to play on their stomachs, inside sit, having the ability to just choose how you're physically going to position your body to play leads to so much development that we wouldn't even think as an adult. And then their cognitive strength, again, their ability to pivot, their ability to figure out how to make things work, how things work, just exploring on their own. Their first engagement and interaction with the world around them is play. A child's primary occupation is play, and that's so important to remember. Again, working in groups, sharing, negotiating, problem solving, and self-advocating. Oh, I'm not done with that toy. I'm still playing with it. Your turn could be next. Just those kinds of things that we really need to be able to communicate at a young age to advocate for ourselves. Practicing decision-making skills. What do I want to play with? What's my favorite thing? What's my favorite color? All those kinds of things that our little ones need to be able to identify in themselves and communicate and develop their interests. You know what? Like, my 4-year-old is constantly playing with cars. It's his favorite thing. It leads to so much imaginary play and dexterity and strengthening, all of it. It's his favorite thing. It's his developed interest. It is concerning when we have our kids and they don't have a developed interest by our cooperative play age. Your kids should have a favorite thing, something that they really enjoy, that they can identify, oh, this is my favorite thing. And then creation and mastery of their world. It allows them to role play in their little minds. Like, something scared me today, but let me work it out with myself. Like, that wasn't so scary. Like building that ability. And then just developing competency, confidence, resilience, just like we've all been saying. Just being able to work through real life situations, whether it's with a friend or on your own in these role playing worlds that you create. Okay, so preparing them for school. Mrs. Coy is just going to touch
So,
on this a little bit.
the benefits of free play, I just wanted to add this. It's not just the experiences for play, it's how they transition into the classroom. So when you are playing, as Mr. Quinzio said, as I've referenced before, Mr. Hurley has said, you're learning how to communicate, you're learning how to self-advocate, you're learning how to take turns, you're learning how to wait. The world is not a one-on-one situation. It's not always going to be positive feedback. A friend is going to say to you, no, I don't like that. I don't want to play that. So they're going to have to figure those things out. Just like a teacher might say, you have to do your math work, and they don't have the choice not to do it. So we need to encourage them to be able to be self-sufficient and have this practice part. They need to learn that there's a bigger world and that they're a part of it and they're contributing to it. Turn taking, communication, self-advocacy, independence. On top of the physical growth that happens, being able to play. When you're crawling on the ground, you're using your hands. Your hands need to be developed in order to hold a pencil. When you're able to sit in a chair or even to hold a pencil, you need to have your core body strength. If you're sitting on your tablet, your decrease in core body strength is not allowing you to be able to sit in a chair for the duration that you need, or be able to cut your scissors or to manipulate objects. These are all things that come naturally through play. And if your child struggles with this, it doesn't mean that your child wasn't playing. There are obviously exceptions to every norm. There are exceptions, but these are all what are needed in order to build, to have an engaged, sustained child. And that is one of the most important parts of why play, not only is it to bring them happiness, but the play to transition into the kindergarten or the first grade or the second grade classroom.
Can I add one thing? I'm going to need, because we're off script for a minute. I want to add one thing. it's kind of like this, the connection to when they get older, hopefully, with cell phones, right? Ms. Coy just said something which I think is really key, right? You could have a disagreement when you're playing, right? And the kid may say something to the other kid that maybe isn't the nicest thing in the world. And that's how we build a little resiliency, right? We also build the ability maybe the next day to say, hey, I'm sorry for what I said yesterday, right? However, if you have a cell phone, it doesn't end with the comment in the playground. It continues all afternoon and all night. And then the audience of people who were not there chime in. And they either say, yeah, you're right about what you said about this guy, or they defend that guy. And now we have like the next day, like this big to-do in school. One kid doesn't want to go to school because they were making fun of me all night. The other kid's going to go and punch the kid in the face because he was saying. So you see, there's a connection here, right? If they go home, and Ms. Coy mentioned this before, we do our best to say no phones during the day. And up until high school, it's pretty consistent. High school, they try to work around it, but we still have caddies and all that. But think about this. They're in school for 6 hours a day. They're at home for 18. If we took their phone away for 6 hours, they still have it for 18 at home, unless you take it away, right? So that's the big difference. Resiliency is, I say something to you, you don't like it, you tell me what you think of me, we talk about it, we have an argument, we do whatever. Sometimes when I was a kid, we didn't settle it the best way, right? But we settled it. The next day we shake hands, we move on. But if I go home and I'm going after you all night and you're going after me all night and my self-esteem is getting diminished, we have a bigger problem. So it's not just the free play, it's the connection to the social media, okay? And now we'll get back to script. Okay.
So before I move on, I just want to touch on this bullet point too. Provides an opportunity to work at their own pace. This world is so fast. It is so fast. It's one thing after the other. We're seeing even in school, kids that haven't learned to put their shoes on when they're 6. So I get it. The morning is so busy. It's impossible. Your Saturdays and Sundays, you're sitting there for 20 minutes if it takes them to get their shoes on. So just slowing everything down. Just slow it down so hard because they're so little and they just don't, constantly being rushed is leading to more of this anxiety. Like, what are we rushing for? We're always rushing. We are always rushing. So, allowing them to play on their own just allows them to move slowly if they want to, moving at their own pace. So kid play is a term that's used to describe spontaneous, unstructured play that children engage in. So just like Mr. Hurley was saying, not having us as parents to intervene or teachers to intervene, anyone, any grown-up, not having them to constantly monitor and interrupt. So, there's this big movement that says if you see your child playing and they're independent on their own or they're playing with a sibling, a friend, whatever it is, just like resist the urge to interrupt them because that's what you're doing. You're interrupting them. They are in their world. They're doing their thing. They're building their skills. And you're like, hey, what are you doing there? Like, leave them alone. And it's hard because we want to be so engaged as parents, but there's a difference between engagement and cooperative play as a parent and interrupting our kids at every chance we get. So some of the things that we're seeing that are leading to decreased play in childhood, and this is not a dig at any parent out there, any family, but we have more single head households. The physical amount of time that we have to devote to our children and parenting is diminishing. Overburdened schedules and overscheduling. So our kids going from their 6.5-hour school day to maybe their aftercare or their sport or their CCD. Then they have their tutoring and then they have their dance class. Overscheduling our kids so they are constantly on the move. There is no time for them to decompress and just play on their own. The notion that resume building is moving earlier and earlier and earlier. What school did my kid go to for kindergarten? We don't need to build our resumes as 5-year-olds. It's not necessary.
The kindergarten center is amazing. So
it's my favorite place. It's nurturing all of them. It's doing great. So the resume building, it's not important at this age. It is important to be well-rounded, but it's not so important to have a list of things that your kid can do by this point in time. After school extensions of academics, the same thing, whether they're going for tutoring, if that's a need, of course, we want to support our children's academics. We want to support their ability to succeed at school. But just drawing a line of where it's necessary. If your kid is on grade level, if they're on target and they're doing great, then do your reading books together and play together and build those skills in other ways. We don't have to be sitting at home doing worksheets for 2 hours. And then passive entertainment through screens is just something that we're seeing more and more of. So instead of them engaging, preparing a meal, playing with siblings, taking the dog for a walk, reading books together, it's just, here's a screen. And that, it can teach us things for sure, and there are educational opportunities for sure. Like, it has good points to it. But at the end of the day, it's taking away a lot of skill building that can happen through our freedom play. Another shift we're seeing is the professionalization of parenthood. So our parents, working or otherwise, are just seeing how they've succeeded at their work and their productivity is mastered in other areas of life. So they're like, I have to do that in parenting too. They want to make the best use of their time. So, we have to enroll in all of these things then because that's the best use of time. But then you're not with your kid. And okay, well, we've got to go to the pumpkin patch because that's the best use of my time. That's the best use of my time to do this. We have to, do all of these things that make you feel efficient and productive as a parent. So that's the professionalization of parenthood. But in reality, the high interaction at home activities present opportunities for highly effective parenting. So with our little kids, I've said this to Mrs. Coy before, my son's favorite thing is to unload the dishwasher. He organizes the cups, like here are the small ones, here are the big ones, here are the purple ones, here are the blue ones, and he loves it. It's a high interaction at home activity. I've got to get it done either way, but he loves it. So, just engaging our kids in our daily lives offers so much skill development. And again, to our little ones, like everything is play. Anything can be play. So when we go into our play for our children, the do's and don'ts. We want to meet your child physically, emotionally, developmentally. So, there's a lot of things you may have heard before, like get on your kid's level. So if they're playing on the floor, you're on the floor too. If you're going to play with your kid, you're getting down wherever they are. If they're sitting at their little table, you're sitting at their little table too. Emotionally, if they've had a day, they're in a place, you want to be able to support that. Don't push them so far because their cup is already full. We're there already. And developmentally, which kind of just speaks to itself. If your kid is a 2 or 3 year old, let's not expect them to be doing 5, 6, 7 year old things. Setting up a baby kid safe space. So this kind of speaks to our younger kids, but everyone's homes are different. So my living room is the toy space. That's where all the toys are. He knows where to find them, and it's a safe space for everyone to play. So that's important too, just so that you don't have to be monitoring them so closely because everything is safe for them. And then being a balanced play partner, reciprocal in nature. So if you're playing with your kid, you're taking turns playing a board game, or if you've said something to them, wait for them to respond before you keep the cueing, because then we get these children that are so prompt dependent and they're constantly waiting for someone to tell them something or lead them or give them an instruction. And we really want to engage them reciprocally. We want everyone to have a turn to kind of build those skills. And then enjoy it. Show your affection, your animation, your gratitude. Maybe you don't care about cars, but like your kid does. So like they're loving it, I'm loving it too. Stickers, cool. Put them all over. Like just getting into it with them. And then limit your distractions. So it's so easy to just like scroll on your phone real quick. Oh, it buzzed. Oh, it beeped. Is it important? Probably not. There's an update tonight. Cool. It'll happen while I'm asleep. It doesn't matter. So I talk about this in my own life all the time. My phone is always on the charger in the kitchen, over there, doing its thing. My husband's is always in his pocket. So his is always out. It's always coming out. It's not necessary. Is it important right this moment? Definitely not. So just limiting your distractions so that, because if your child looks up at you and you're on your phone, they're not going to ask you the question that they had. They're not going to say, hey, mommy, do you like this? Like, it's not going to happen because they see that you're distracted. They don't want to interrupt you. They've learned that skill. So that's something important too. On the flip side, don't worry too much. You don't have to obsess over levels and milestones. Oh, should they be sitting like that? Oh my gosh, they haven't rolled yet. Oh my gosh, their fine motor development isn't happening. It's a slow go. It's not going to happen overnight. That's what development is. And then don't forget about the moderation. So just like we've been saying, if you do use screens, that's the world we live in, but just make sure you're monitoring it. Like some days are rough, snow days, bad weather, like I get it. But if you have the opportunity to moderate all of those things, it just works out so much better for our kids. Same thing, falling into the screens trap. This is just Recommendations for screen time by age. It's self-explanatory.
It'll be on our resources.
It's all going to be able to be accessed. So remembering, just like I had said prior, our child's primary occupation is play. They do as we do. Monkey see, monkey do. If you take the dog for a walk every day, oh, that's part of our routine. I'm going to take the dog for a walk. When they get older and they're able to do those things, they want to engage with you through those things. Again, if you're cleaning or if you're sitting down to read a book, or you're going to sit and play with something that you've gotten, and like they see what we do and they do exactly what we do. So we have to remember to make time for outdoor play. Outdoor play is probably the single one thing that can just offer the most development, like per capita. There are just so many opportunities, just sensory-wise, the amount of input that you can get just from being outside, taking a walk even, if you don't want to necessarily play outside. Play variety, low-tech play. So taking away the screens, even for our little kids, just, here's some blocks. Here's some pipe cleaners. Do what you do. Like, see what they're able to show us. And then making time and teaching our kids about downtime. So many kids are just struggling. They need the constant entertainment. But downtime is so important for our bodies, for rest, and for our brains. So just teaching them, you know what, we're going to take the next 20 minutes just to sit. You could read a book or you could color if you want, but we're going to have downtime. We're just going to rest and just be. So just teaching our kids about that, because I think that that's something that we as adults are like craving all the time and they don't necessarily understand. It's something that would need to be taught.
So what are you going to do with all this information? So I know it's been a long presentation. Emily, thank you for giving us so many great reasons as to why it's so important. And I hope that it resonated and gave you a good perspective as to the importance of play and fostering that independence. So I was going to print something out and give it to you guys, but I'm not, because I'm not going to enable that. I'm going to let you guys be active too. There is an organization called Let Grow. So the author of The Anxious Generation and 3 other very recognized individuals who I have the little blurb here. I'm not going to go into it because I know you've been here a long time. But Let Grow is simply an organization for schools, for communities, for parents. It's a resource that provides opportunities to have independence, to build their opportunities to grow. So I'm going to just quickly show you the what is out there. I would suggest that you go to their website, because you can sign up for Let Grow. And what it does when you sign up for Let Grow, they'll send you different articles. They'll send you information. They'll send you resources, the how-to. And one of the greatest things that I came across in this are, what are we doing? So many times we have all this information. We're like, great, we're going to decrease screen time. We're going to increase opportunities for play and independence. But what are we doing? Well, here are some different things that we can do. Here are some ways that you can help facilitate that independence within your family without having to think about it. They're there for you. They have them by season. They have them by activity. They have them by location. So there are some great resources that are out there for you to consider to support your child's development. Again, all of these independent skills are transferring into the classroom, because they have to be able to be one of 25 or one of 20 or one of 35 on a football field or a soccer field or at a camp. So these are all the skills that they need for them to be successful. So we are really encouraging the parents, the community, to take a look at what are we doing at home. We are looking at what we do at school, how to support growth in the overall child, looking at the holistic child and helping them grow as a whole child, not just the academics, not just in basketball, looking at it all. So I appreciate your time. I know we have some more workshops coming up. We have one on technology again on Monday night. That is at Pierpont School. Some more information is on the website, but that will give us some information on how to oversee the technology. What does safe online look like? And I think that's important at this level for parents to say, okay, like, what is Snapchat, or how do I oversee, or what is that access that's out there? They're going to give you some of those parameters.
So I have a very anxious generation here, but one of the things that I've heard about it is this idea of a parent pact, and everybody signing on to say we're not going to give our kids cell phones until 16, so that kids don't feel daughter, or Nasreen's daughter, those are my friends, but maybe 100 people, so that you know that you're not just one of,
Well,
one of the odd men out that doesn't have it.
well,
Right. I'm the only one, and everyone's making fun of me. Or
right. Well,
I'm left out.
I think to answer your question, I mean, part of what we're doing here is, to try to encourage you all to do that. I mean, I don't feel as my responsibility or my job, I'd be overstepping my bounds if I said, hey, all you parents should sign a pact and tell your kids not to have a cell phone. You tell me, who are you to tell me that, right? What I'm suggesting to you is that you consider doing that. Now, there was a community, I can't remember the community, it was in, Montclair, that did a thing where the kids gave up their cell phones, put them away for a week, and then they came back and talked about it, and they missed it, but they were all talking about the benefits of it. I think, we've had, about 45, 50 people at the workshop last week. We have about 45 or 50 people here, 40-something people here. People watching on I'm getting emails from people, hey, I'm reading the book. I'm glad you brought it up. Do it. But I don't think I can dictate that. Now, Let Grow is a good example. Ms. Coy arranged for our physical education teachers to spend a workshop day exploring Let Grow. And they're going to maybe, start encouraging parents and talk to parents. But see, encouraging is the key word, right? So we're using, for lack of a better word, the bully pulpit here to say, hey, consider this. And, if your child's in high school or middle school, good luck, I mean, but you can start to curtail it. You can start to say, is there anything wrong with saying, look, I'm old, right? But I remember in the mid 60s when the Surgeon General came out and says cigarette smoking is like the worst thing you could do. And everybody I knew, all my aunts and uncles, everybody was always a haze of smoke everywhere you went, right? You see haze of smokes anywhere? It takes time sometimes, right, to do cultural change. But we have to start having that conversation. And somebody, I think the person might be here, came up to me at the end of the last workshop and said, this is great, but maybe you ought to do something like this for the kids. And we're going to do something. I'm going to talk about this in the next administrative council. Let's show the high school and middle school kids the stuff that we showed the parents last week. Because if you go to our website, you'll see that one of our English teachers at the high school did it in her class. And the kids, they were all agreeing with, hey, this is nuts. Now, are you all going to I guarantee you, none of them put away their cell phone. But at least they're thinking about it, right? So this is a conversation, and with cultural change, it takes time, right? But again, I'm suggesting, right? I'm not telling. You're still the parent. And if your kid was eating food that you found out, we had that carrot thing, right? Last week, E. coli, you're not going to give your kid a carrot steak the next day. You might want it, but you're going to throw it away. It's a great idea. I think it's got to generate. Now, PTA, independent organization, you go to your next PTA meeting, you want to say to the PTA, hey, did any of you see that workshop? Did anybody read the book? Why don't we do something with the PTA? But it should be grassroots, okay? And we'll help any way you can. I'll meet with parents. I'll meet with Girl Scouts wanted to meet with me about doing something in a Girl Scout troop. I told them, come and meet with me. We'll talk about it. But I have a pretty good relationship with most of the parents in town. I don't want to ruin that by telling you what to do. Okay?
May I add one quick thing? If you have a child who's a little bit older than third grade, and that you already gave them a phone, there are apps where you can control the time on the phone.
Yeah.
They're going to hate you probably for 2 months, and they're going to go upset.
Yeah.
Yes, but they will do something.
100%.
There is for studio. You can monitor where your kid is, but you can also know who is he texting or she's texting, how long. You can control it, and then they get upset for a while. But then now my son knows you have 1 hour for texting. That's it. Budget yourself in a way where you get done with homework, and maybe you can spend it.
Right.
They get upset.
Well,
Yes, they're gonna.
Well,
they get upset.
100%. Like, you wouldn't let your...
With technology
Right,
as well.
right. I said this last week. You wouldn't let your child drive a car or drive in a car without a seatbelt on. You wouldn't let them ride a bike without a helmet on, right? But you let them, in theory, be able to search for anything they could want to find.
Heading on it.
Right. right?
was saying that in the
So, right. So, I mean, yeah, like as a parent, we put phone caddies up in the high school, right? Put your phone in. How about you have one in your dining room? When you go to bed, put the phone in there, right? I mean, these are things that I can't tell you to do. I guess I just did. But why not do them?
solutions. There are solutions.
Yeah.
But the workshop for the students.
Yes, we're going to follow up on
they're
that.
very smart.
Yeah.
Even if the teacher does it individually in her class, I think that would be the greatest.
No, what I'm thinking of doing, I didn't tell to some of the people that were involved in the workshop. And Mr. Ryan is our film. I want to thank him too. He's filming for us, but he was part of the workshop last week on the social media. I didn't tell them this, but we might do this presentation to the high school kids and the middle school kids. But you see, the thing is, right? It still has to be, if we stand, right, Dr. Valeshko, you stand at a faculty meeting, you say to the faculty, we should all be doing this. But when they go in their classroom, and they shut that door. That's the Big Bang Theory, right? The door bangs shut. They could be doing whatever, they have to carry it out, right? So you got to give people the reason why this is important. And I'm sure all of you have a lot of things, right, to do, Thanksgiving coming, all that, and you're here for an hour and a half. So obviously you think it's important. If you don't carry it with you when you leave, and start to move the ball forward, then it was kind of a wasted hour and a half, right? So I think you got to take whatever works for you and carry it forward. But to your point, yeah, why not do some things?
Technology against technology.
Right. Anybody else? Quick question. Over here.
Yeah, so you mentioned about failure and like encouraging that. How is that, like how schools are like encouraging that to our kids and the parents as well? Because you mentioned that like a lot of anxiety and pressure comes from the parents because we want the kids to succeed. So it's like
Okay.
a ongoing circle.
Well, let me just quickly, and now let Ms. Coy. If a student doesn't do well, we give them ways, whether it's teacher-made material, computer-based material, ways to catch up, interventions, right? We tell them, okay, we want to see progress, growth mindset, right? We don't say, what's wrong with you? What's going on? Now, what happens sometimes, and I get it as a parent, you get a letter that says, oh, your child needs RTI program. They need interventions. And you're like, oh, what's going on, right? What's going on is they're not up to speed. We're going to try to catch them up to speed. So we tried. I'm not going to say of 400 people in the district, there isn't some overzealous teacher who might give a message that, hey, what's wrong with you? But our philosophy is we're going to work to do better. I mentioned coaching before, right? So just think about this real quick. When I was coaching, if we had a bad game, what did I do? I looked at the film. I looked at our practice schedule. I looked at what we did. I said, how am I going to do better next game? So that's the approach we try to take. And I think that's the approach you have to take. Go ahead.
More specifically, I think we're helping to help build resilience. So if your child doesn't know how to do something, we're telling them you need to try it before we're helping you. We're telling them, okay, this one you need to take another look at it, try again. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for students to go and have that second try or that third try, or okay, don't come to me, what's the first step? Try again, ask a neighbor, right? Some classrooms have different philosophies on how they do it, but it's not giving them the quick solution, I think, is the overall theme to support that feeling of not knowing. And yes, if a child is struggling, that's a little bit of a separate issue if they're truly having that issue, but I feel every child is not going to get everything correct. And it's also, I think it's important to note also, all of our children are not going to be straight A students for the rest of their life. Students, if you get a 2 on your report card, you are still just as lovely as the child that has a 3. If you have a 1, you are working to get to a 2 to get to a 3. Your children are not coming out prototypes. They're not the assistant that was at the AI workshop. Right. Be realistic in that your child is doing the best that they can do and that they're able to go through it. So sometimes expectations don't match up to what they can do. And it's okay if they're not getting that A or if they're not getting that 3 or 4. That's okay. They're working, they're learning. And
just a real quick personal anecdote. On most Wednesday nights, my 15-month granddaughter comes over for the late afternoon into early evening, and I try to get out of work early to get home and spend time with her. Most Thursday nights, my 3-year-old and 8-year-old grandsons come over, and if you bring around boys at that age, I try to work late those nights. Okay, but last night the 8-year-old was drawing, right, and he was frustrated. I mean, to the point of, because he couldn't draw the way it was in the book. Well, I couldn't draw anything, right? But he's a big baseball guy. So I said to him, you're a baseball fan, right? So if a baseball player comes up to bat 10 times and 7 times he fails, strikes out, pops up, and 3 times he gets a hit, you know what happens? He gets in the Hall of Fame, right? Because he batted 300. So we have to send the message that the goal is always to be the best we can be, but the key word is the best we can be, right? We try to do that. You got to try to do that too. Any other quick? I know we're getting.
I would love to hear your tips on how to ease our kids into being able to roam around Rutherford a little bit more. I have 3rd grade twins who are so eager to have more agency and independence, and I'd love, after reading this book, to try it a little bit. Maybe next year, 4th or 5th grade, let them walk into school, meet up at the library. But to one of the points on your earlier slide, there aren't that many public places where they can do that, right? There's 3 parks, the library, that might be it. The book recommends having a play club after school, things like that. What are you seeing other parents in town do when they're at that cusp of like being capable of roaming?
I think it's starting small. So, and knowing your child. So what a 3rd grader in one family may be and what a 3rd grader in another family are very different. But do they know how to cross the street? Do they know those simple things? So when you're with you, just modeling what are you doing? Maybe talking it out. Okay, when we get to the corner, do you know what to do? Yes, they're going to tell you. And maybe they don't know what to do. But starting with those small steps and modeling it. Then it's saying, okay, take the dog for a walk around the block or go around the block on your own. Just these little branches, these little ways to have them branch out, having them go in and pick up the pizza. So if they're going to 4th grade next year and they're going to go to Chris's isn't there anymore. So Ice Cream Charlie's, wherever they're going to go after school, they need to know how to pay and do those things. So you need to start allowing them those opportunities, even at an early age. My youngest, I'd be like, hurry, just run in and grab it for me, please, because you have to just teach them and then expect it from them. And
This gives good ideas.
Yeah, and this is a great way to facilitate. And I think by just giving them living opportunities, you're going to see like, oh, they've got this. And there's school marshals to help with the crossing and all those different things. So it's like it's scaffolding. Having them, they know how to do it on their own, but there's also things put in place and allowing them to have those conversations with you like, okay, how do I go here? Or what is my plan? And it doesn't have to be that they have a watch on them either or a gadget to know where they are. It's us being uncomfortable, not knowing where they are for that hour, right? They're most likely, they're going to run into, if I probably leave here, I'm going to see one of you within the next hour, right? Or my child is going to be seen by somebody. So it's just having that, we have a community, I think, that is supportive of each other, that allows for students to start thriving. And we need to just embrace that we need to encourage our children to grow.
I would just send them out in a group. Like you have the perfect luxury, got 2. There's a permanent buddy system, and you start with just send 2 or 3. You just be like, go out, go get lunch. Here's $5, $10, whatever. See you in an hour.
And don't park at the corner. Don't have the other parent or the other, down the street. They have skills that we sometimes are we're squashing by over parenting.
And if you're really nervous, right? Like, don't monitor them. Don't have them check with you every 3 minutes. But maybe just come up with what you're comfortable with. Say, hey, in 40 minutes, just let me know that you're at the restaurant or something like that. But I think these baby steps are important to give a little independence. How about just even start by letting them out in the front yard or backyard by themselves? Yeah. Some people won't do that.
Or carrying their backpacks, or like those little things, like building their resilience. Like let them be. They can get out of the car. Like drop-off lanes. They need to be able to do all these things on their own to be functioning humans. Get out of the car, put your backpack on. Right. You need to be able to, put your jackets on. All skills. You need to be self-sufficient.
Well, and give them do your due diligence. Does your kids know their address? The amount of kids that walk into my sessions, I say, hey, what's your birthday? Where do you live? Where do you live? So then I launch into, okay, if you're lost in Rutherford, where are you going to tell someone that you need to get to? So as a parent, okay, I'm walking out with my kids like, hey, Thomas, like, do you know which way we would go to get home from here? Yeah, Mama, we're going to go this way. So just doing those things, due diligence, so that, you know, gives you more peace of mind and prepares them. Like, just know, you got to know your stuff, you know, like make sure they know where they live. Make sure they could call you if they needed to, you know, like even if they don't have a phone, how am I going to get in contact with my people, with my grown-ups?
The learning happens when they get into trouble.
Yeah. Just like failure in school. Like when you don't know, that's when the real learning.
So, we went longer, but fine. You know, again, you're probably not hearing me, but I'm on the video, but it doesn't matter. I'm not saying much right now. I want to thank Dr. Gillespie. You know, we're rotating these programs. We're rotating these programs between Washington, Lincoln, and Pierpont because, again, it's great to have an audience, right? In those three schools, parents, you know, in those age groups, they drop off. And it's not so hard to get to Washington from here or from Pierpont from here. So we're rotating them. So, you know, we appreciate you coming out. We appreciate also if you spread the word to other people who can't be here. They could look online and watch the video. Again, you know, we're here to try to help and work with you, right? So if there's anything we could do to help you, reach out to any one of us at any one of the buildings, and we will. So any other last words? We good? I thank the presenters. Thank you all. Have a great Thanksgiving. Okay? See you, everybody.